Excellent. And welcome everyone to April Spry webinar. I want to welcome Ken and Michelle McKenzie to our webinar today. And so it is a terrific opportunity to have a discussion with such a wonderful couple and wonderful leaders in a physical therapy space here in the United States. So first, the introduction. I want to introduce Ken and Michelle to our webinar. Ken and Michelle McKenzie bring over 2 decades of clinical and entrepreneurial experience to outpatient rehab space. After building a successful physical therapy practice in Louisiana, they relocated to Colorado in 2014 to pursue a lifelong dream of living near the mountains and founded Premier Physical Therapy in Westminster. Ken is a former All-American tennis player and, from what I understand, a star in Florida State University, who brings deep understanding of athletic performance and injury recovery to his clinical work. His experience spans orthopedic rehab, post-operative care, neurological care, wellness-focused care to patients of all ages. Under his leadership, Premier Physical Therapy has become a pinnacle of MSK space in Colorado and has been really a foundational patient-centered philosophy and strong clinical outcomes, trusted by community everywhere. Born in Louisiana and raised in San Antonio, Texas, Michelle attended Florida State University and graduated with a degree in nursing. After opening Premier Physical Therapy, Michelle became an operator together with Ken. She loves Premier family atmosphere and has been created a grateful for every day and amazing patient and staff. Her son and daughter are both CSM Rams. Michelle loves to play tennis, scuba dive, and ski, and enjoys listening to her favorite band, Everett Brothers. She loves the beauty and fun of Colorado that Colorado offers. So Ken and Michelle are both committed to clinical excellence, and operational innovation positions them as modernizing outpatient leaders, balancing personalized treatment with forward-thinking business practices that support growth, efficiency, and long-term success. So Ken and Michelle, thank you for joining us and welcome.
Hi.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
So first, I will start with a foundational question. You guys are just this unique example of what it takes to be a perfect couple running a wonderful business, right? You've built a business as a family. Can you tell us a little bit of a story behind this? How did you choose to unite together in this shared enterprise?
Yeah. So I think so we moved out here in 2014 from Louisiana, where I actually had another practice at that time that we sold. I had a partner that I went to PT school with. We moved out here, really actually not thinking about starting another clinic. We kind of wanted a little bit of a break at that time. And so I was doing home health. Michelle was working in home health as a nurse. And we kind of got to the point where our kids were in high school and middle school and involved in a lot of sports and stuff. And I found that we were starting to miss a lot of their activities and really wasn't fulfilled with the home health at the time. Wanted to get back to doing some outpatient. So I started mentioning that to Michelle. And the way she does is she's always like, I was like, maybe we should start another practice out here. And she's always like, well, let's do it.
Let's do it.
And so we started the practice, Premier Physical Therapy, and we had never started a practice before, so it was a big change for us starting from scratch. And so it's been a big learning curve, but yeah, that's kind of how it was just me treating patients and Michelle working the front desk at the time.
Learning how to work a front desk.
Which she had never done. So yeah. So
we just dove in both feet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Feet first. So that is terrific. So then working together, right? Like it's not an easy feat living together and being married to each other, obviously raising a wonderful family. But how do you define your day-to-day roles when you're working with each other?
Yeah, I think part of it is we're very different, as most married couples are. Their personalities are very different. So we sort of fell in our roles easily. He's a little bit more introverted. I'm more extroverted. He's more analytical and loves numbers. I like people and the marketing aspect of it. And I had to learn the front desk part of it, which was we kind of fell in our roles sort of naturally because we have different areas that we excel in, for sure.
Yeah. And, being a PT, I work more with the PTs on the PT side and doing that kind of thing. Michelle has learned how to do more the front desk side of things, the insurance verifications, billing, collections, like all that kind of stuff.
Payroll, marketing,
Yeah,
all the extras, non-PT stuff I kind of have learned. And I kind of take care of the receptionist and that kind of thing. And he sort of deals with the PT. And I don't think we ever sat down and really talked about it. Like I said, I think we just kind of fell in those roles because those roles really fit our personalities.
yeah.
Awesome. So then, how did you guys set up the boundaries? How do you separate work from life, right? And how do you create these structure where you know when to log in, when to log out, when to actually focus on the business versus family? So what's the structure on that?
Yeah, it's tough to do, honestly, because when anybody who owns a small business, whatever business that is, I'm sure, it becomes your life. Basically, it's kind of all encompassing. Where I work together, we work at home a lot of times, but definitely there's times where we just have to say, look, this weekend we're not going to talk about work, or after 7 o'clock at night we don't talk about work anymore. And I think it's really important to set those boundaries so that it doesn't just engulf your whole relationship as well. So we try to find
Right.
time to do other things. We each have our own hobbies that we do separately, and we actually make a conscious effort to do it. And sometimes Michelle will say, "We're not talking about work anymore after this," and so we try to separate that out. And
I think the turning point for me one time was we like to take walks every night. We used to walk our dogs, and our kids would go with us when they lived at home. And they started saying, we're like, let's go for a walk. And they would say, only if we're not going to talk about work. If you guys start talking about work, we're going to turn around and come back home. That
yeah,
was kind of an eye opener for me.
it
And so we
was.
kind of started setting almost like work hours, like, okay, there's stuff that we need to talk about and it is important, but can it wait till the morning when we're both up and starting our day? And I really do think that's important. Otherwise, you can drive yourself batty just 24/7 thinking about what your livelihood is your business that you're working together. And so you have to set work hours just like people who work at home have to set work hours.
Yeah, and luckily Colorado it's a place you can get out and do a lot of active. So for me, like getting out and just going mountain biking, sometimes by myself or with a friend, and I just don't think about work when I'm doing that. Or we go skiing, whatever it is. Just trying to separate that out, and then just when we're together, making sure we have time where we're not talking about work at all, because it is hard. You think about it all the time, as a business owner. And so, and a lot of times we're doing separate stuff at work. So we get home and we start talking about it because we haven't really been, working together at work. So it's a challenge, but I think it's maybe one of the more important things if you're going to be working with your spouse is to make sure you set apart that time that you're not talking about work and not in the work mode. So
And yeah, Ken, Michelle, Drew here. Great to see y'all again. Exciting. Love the work y'all are doing, and I know we're really grateful to have you as part of our family in a sense. Question for y'all is in terms of one of the concerns you always hear people talk about, like, oh, hey, doing business with family and things like that. One of the biggest concerns I think that people have is how to handle conflict or disagreements within the workplace, right? And not number one, not only let that spill over at home, but then also have the ability to, let's say it's hiring somebody or certain things like that where there might be that disagreement. How have you all kind of managed the potential of conflicts or even when they have popped up? Kind of walk us through a little bit of what that's been like.
yeah,
Well, I think going back again, our personalities being different, we kind of excel. We have different weaknesses and different strengths, and we kind of have to hold ourselves accountable. Um, I have certain weaknesses, like very impatient. And if I want something done, I want it to be done. And he will sort of bring me down to reality and say, be a little more patient. Let's give this some time. Let's, do that kind of a thing. Um, he doesn't like conflict so much. I don't like conflict or confrontation. I don't like it so much either, but I am impatient and I want to address things. So sometimes we sort of give each other the little bit of the nudge and the push that the other one needs. You can't be defensive in this type of thing. You have to really be able to step back and say, okay, I think you're better to deal with this situation. And I think you're better to deal with this situation. And I think part of that goes back to being very different is very helpful for us. If we had the same personality types and the same, um, we might do a little bit more of this, but I think we don't do as much of that. And when he's not sure, we always go with whatever I say. No, I'm kidding.
It sounds like my house, actually. So
Yeah.
a lot of what you were saying right there sounded exactly like my house. So I totally understand what you're talking about there.
kidding.
No, but the other thing with that too is that, looking at y'all and how you've been able to build such a strong foundation, right? That's allowed your business to really grow and for you all to be seeing some great results. How have you taken that family atmosphere that you all have together and then expanded that out to the wonderful team that you all have?
Yeah, I think that was, when we started the clinic, that was kind of part of our vision was to, we didn't want it to be a super, I don't know how to say this, but like clinical atmosphere. We wanted it to be a little bit more of a laid back, casual family atmosphere. Our goal was to, I've worked at other places before in my business and wanted this to be a place to where the therapists could enjoy coming to work. They weren't going to hopefully be overwhelmed with us overworking them, and try to make it a place that the patients felt really comfortable coming. I always tell my staff, I'm like, nobody wants to go to physical therapy. It's something you kind of have to do because you're injured or having an issue. But we want to try to make it a place that they enjoy coming while they're doing their treatment and everything. And so I think by treating the therapist that the way we would, not just therapists, but all the staff, the way we would want to be treated, treating our patients the way that I would want to be treated if I went somewhere, and just trying to kind of make it a close knit group was our goal from the beginning. So I think hopefully we've accomplished that. I think we have, but it's always something we're striving for is to kind of put ourselves in the shoes of either our employees or our patients, and then also to continue to train them to be the same way. And I think if you can develop that culture that you're looking for, whatever it may be, for us, that's what we were shooting for. But it's a constant. You have to really constantly work on it. If you don't, you can lose it. So it's been a process, but that's what we were going for from the start.
Yeah, I think it's so unique just getting to know you guys when you mentioned that building a strong team is much more important than profitability alone, right? To create a foundation, to create the culture. And it resonates just from speaking to you, but it also resonates with how you're received in your community. So when looking for a new team member, or when you're looking to add someone to your clinic, hiring someone new, what is it you look for? Not just in terms of skill set, but in terms of a proper fit. What are some of the attributes for a good cultural fit into your organization?
Yeah. When I'm looking at doing interviews and looking at resumes and things like that, the most important thing to me when I'm interviewing somebody is looking at their personality. Will they fit in with what we're looking for in a team member? And that's somebody who's going to be unselfish, has a caring heart, and wants to be a team player, basically. People can look really good on paper, and I've made these mistakes in the past where you hire somebody, they have a great resume or whatever, But then when they get into a clinic atmosphere or group atmosphere, they just don't fit in or are a problem, and that's probably one of the bigger problems mistakes you can make. So I've learned from that, and we really look really hard as far as somebody who we feel like will fit in with our team. We can train people to be better therapists, better front office managers. We can get them the continuing ed, the training and all that, but you can't change someone's personality. From my experience, if they don't have the personality you're looking for, you can't really fix that. And so that's kind of the way we approach hiring, I would say.
Yeah, people who are going to fit into our culture. We have a very close staff. They all get along really well. They support each other. I mean, we have so many examples of how our staff gets along, supports each other. And not to downplay anyone's schooling, but if you ask me right now, I've looked at all the resumes of everybody that we currently have. I couldn't tell you where any of them went to school, to PT school, but I can tell you every wonderful attribute they have. How their patients leave wonderful Google reviews, how the patients walk into Ken's office. Every week he has patients walking into his office saying, you have the best staff here, and they all get along. And some of our reviews will even say, between the front desk and the rest of the staff, everybody seems to really, enjoy for the most part being here, get along. It's a welcoming atmosphere. And so those are the people that we are looking for. They've all been to school. They're all well trained. They all know how to be a PT. Everything, like he was saying, is moldable if there's little tweaks here and there, but really, are they going to be the type of person? And we've had some great hires. We have a great staff. And another thing that I think he does really well is he invites them after he interviews them, if it's not an in-person interview, see if they want to drop by the clinic if they're local. We have a lot of people moving in, but if they're in Colorado, in Westminster, and they want to come by, we'll have our clinic directors meet with them and introduce them to the staff, and then we get their feedback as well. And they're usually excited, like, have you heard back from this person and that kind of thing. So that promotes before the first day of work for somebody. That already has promoted this fun, welcoming, everyone's excited to welcome the new team member.
Yeah. And I think, what we're looking for, our kind of mentality is that we're here to serve the public. So we're here to hopefully provide a really good service for the people in our community. We love Westminster. We love being there. And so that's what we want, is people who kind of think that way. And if you're doing all these things, if you create a good base, you create a really good team, you have good organization and all that, the profitability will come. If you're providing a good product, a good service, and you have a good team behind you, the profitability will come. It's important. We have to be profitable, or else we will go away. But if you go into it thinking, I'm doing this to make a lot of money, you're probably going to fail. So you have to be going into it for the right reasons, and those reasons have to be to provide a great service for your community and be a part of that community.
I think that's awesome. I think it's awesome. I know I said this to you all before we started, but I'll say it for everybody, is if I had $1, for every time Bridge had told me, hey, find us more clients exactly like Ken and Michelle, I would have quite a few dollars. So he loves having you. We love having you guys. And, one of the things I just wanted to ask about is, what's been the most challenging aspect of this, right? In terms of some of the big challenges that you all have faced as you've grown this clinic to where it is now, and how did you all work together to kind of overcome that challenge?
Yeah, one of the challenges for me, the biggest challenge is probably going through the COVID shutdown.
Surviving a pandemic was probably the most stressful, longest, never-ending seemed like challenge.
That was a battle, and that took a lot of
grit,
self-reflection and grit, and just perseverance, I think. But on a different level, I think one of the biggest challenges for me as we started to grow as a clinic was basically giving up control of everything and starting to delegate to staff members. So hiring clinic directors for our 2 clinics. For a long time, I just was the clinic director. But putting people that you trust in good positions that they can thrive in, train them well, and then let them do their thing, and try not to micromanage them. That was really hard for me, because the clinic is kind of your, it's like your baby, and you don't want to give it up, and you're worried about it. But to really start growing as a clinic and thriving, you kind of have to do that. So it's kind of been hard for both of us. So
for me too, when we started in 2015, we had a 2,500 square foot space. Me running the front desk, who's not a front desk person at all. I knew nothing really. And one PT. The whole week we were open, we didn't have one patient. We didn't start seeing patients. We got our first referral the very next week. So very scary, very, I didn't really know what I was doing. There was a lot of scaredness, doubt, all kinds of stuff that goes through everybody who starts a business, everything. But so I was the only one doing all of this for a long time until we hired somebody. And then it's still, you feel like you know what you're doing, and the whole thing of if you want something done right, just you can do it quick and fast and easy and it'll get done. But as we grew very fast. That was a challenge for us, as we grew very, very quickly. And I was so used to doing things, but no one wants to be micromanaged. And so I had to learn to step back, like Ken did, also, and be like, okay, if I teach my staff, the receptionists and the extra staff besides the PTs, the way that we want it done, they'll do it.
Yeah.
If they'll do it, and you have to trust that they'll do it and let them go. And that's been a challenge for me too, is staying out of their business and saying, here's how we want it. You check in and things like that, like a good manager would.
And honestly, like a lot of times I did that, and then I was like, oh, they actually have really good ideas.
Yeah.
Better than me on a lot of them. Like they actually have. So if you let them do the thing, and you let them, be in that position and thrive, you'll find your staff can come up with some great ideas. They can do a lot of things better than you can, and that was an eye opener for me, for sure.
Yeah, and I think another challenge for us has been we've had little lumps of time where we grew quickly, and trying to keep up with that. Like, we hope we're not getting in over our heads, and we've got the patients, and we've got the staff, and staying just slightly overstaffed, and but trying to keep up with the periods of growth. That was also kind of a little bit of a challenge as well.
Yeah.
So going into that, ideas and using staff as a foundation, right, of the creative enterprise. What are some of the things you guys do to drive this innovation, to drive this process of your clinicians actually adding to growth, and adding to not just even patient growth, but to the fabric of your clinic and your organization?
Yeah, I know. Well, we meet with them a lot, and we set goals for them each year, and we always want them trying to kind of get out of their comfort zone a little bit with certain things. So we try to push them to learn new skills, get into maybe some like cash pay things that they might not be comfortable with, as far as like a new area they've never worked in. But I think, meeting regularly, setting goals for them, challenging them to kind of get out of their own comfort zone. And then, pray, you have to celebrate when they do things that are that deserve celebration, I guess. So making sure you are praising them when they, do something great, or something new that they haven't done. And so I think by doing that, it sort of pushes them, and knows that they know they can try these different things. And sometimes they don't, we've tried new things and they don't work, and but that's okay. You have to keep doing that, and keep challenging yourself to learn and move forward. And I think,
and to add to that too, is we do pay for everybody to have some continuing education every year. And so we really try to keep staying progressive and moving forward and not sitting still. And there's so many new things coming up with fit therapy that I didn't even know they could do. And so one of the ways we've been adding is like, okay, who's interested in, we've got a big need in our community for pelvic health. And we didn't have anybody. So who wants to do that? And let's pay for part of your training to go get your continuing ed. So we've added to a lot of our services that we provide. And that's one way that we've been able to keep growing
Yeah.
as well. And they get really excited about the new things that they're learning and the courses they're taking. And then I have to go out and market it. But but that's another way of how we keep them excited and growing at this, at the same time.
Wonderful. On the same note, then, when somebody takes these continuing education courses, and then you are seeing less than perfect execution, right? So you're seeing this less than exemplary performance. Like, what are some of the ways you can motivate people to continue to be focused on the end picture, having enough insight that it really is a healthcare business, and it really is a way of obviously bringing revenue in, not just keeping everyone happy, but also maintaining a viable business operation. So what are some of the ways and some of the structure and strategies you have to keep your staff aware and recognize that this is a structured business?
Yeah, I think a lot of that is just we do a lot of training with our staff. So, as therapists, we learn how to treat patients. And in PT school, at least when I was there, that was the main focus, obviously, but we didn't get much training at all on like billing and coding and document. I mean, we got some on documentation, but billing, coding, that kind of thing, understanding the business side of it and how it works. Most of the therapists that we hire, they just don't have a lot of background in that. And so doing a lot of training and teaching them, how billing works, how CPT coding works, how, what we need to do to make sure that we're thriving as a business. And we always say, patient care is first and foremost. But if we're not doing these other things correctly, we can't do that. We won't be here to treat the patients and give them that great care that we want to give them. So we do a lot of training, chart reviews, auditing charts, and then going back and training them on those things. If it's a skill that they've learned, we try to have some mentorship with maybe another therapist that does those things really well and has more experience with it. And so that they can, so like the pelvic health was a good example of that. We had one therapist that is really skilled in that and has a lot of experience. And so she's mentoring our other two therapists that have now learned how to do that and taken the continuing ed, and so that they can get together and get the feedback. So we really try to do that. With our new therapists that come on board, we try to give them a mentor as well that they can work with for a period of time until they feel comfortable. And then, just like I said, just continuing to do the training and communicate with them so that they understand, what we're doing and why we're doing it.
And we have monthly meetings with the whole staff where we go over, try to every month kind of reiterate, especially for newer employees that, because you're constantly, if you're hiring and somebody wasn't here 6 months ago to hear something, try to review a lot of things and trying to also reiterate the fundamental culture that Ken and I designed when we opened this place from scratch, which was treat people well. They're usually hurting. Sometimes they've waited a long time to get an appointment somewhere else for PT. Sometimes they haven't been treated well, or they've had a really bad experience with PT in the past. Whatever the issue is, teaching our staff the way that we want everybody is, the way they are is to me, a direct reflection of us and how we've asked them to be and trained them to be. And I really feel like we've done a good job. We have such good people, caring therapists, and they really do treat the way we ask them to treat our patients. And I think a lot of that is reflected in our positive reviews and things like that. So between the concrete stuff he's talking about, the analytical stuff, and the talky stuff that I'm talking about, I think just kind of reminding them this is how we built this and this is how we want our reputation to be and to stay that way. But we're lucky we have great therapists that we don't really get complaints and things like that. But if we do every now and then about something, kind of go to that person and just reiterate, this is how this is our legacy, this is our reputation, and this is how our clinic is going to handle situations and kind of helping them through situations, because people may not have had mentors at other jobs. They may have just been hired and said, go treat or do this or do that. And that's not what we want to do. We want them to understand like why it's important to us to treat people well.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think another big thing is if a problem does come up, you have to address it. So it can be uncomfortable sometimes when there is an issue with the therapist or something, or we get a complaint from a patient, but it has to be addressed, and you need to address it right away so it doesn't continue on and become a bigger problem.
People appreciate that too. If you call a patient, just say, tell me your side of what's happening. People want to vent, they want to be heard. And a lot of times it's no problem. They come right back into therapy because they just want to know that their feelings are understood and heard. Ignoring it is the worst thing to do because they might disappear and you never had the chance to understand, what could we have done maybe better to make their experience better? Or I understand why you're coming, where you're coming from. So he's absolutely right. You can't ignore anything that comes your way that could be addressed. Because I do think it's a great opportunity for us to learn as a clinic too. Okay, well, um, I would have never thought that would be a problem, but that's, good.
And then, kind of along those same lines, thinking of branching that out a little bit into kind of the overall like emotional leadership part of it, right? The weight and burden of kind of when things like that happen, clients are complaining, or if there's staff issues, or sometimes just a bad day, right? To where there's that emotional weight, burden, whatever it is that the leader has to carry. Um, you both kind of share the same one together, right? And so it's not like where myself, I can walk downstairs and just vent to my wife and whatever, right? For you all, it's, hey, you're living this together. How do you all kind of manage that aspect of it?
Yeah, I think, I
Kinda
think
touches
that's
on.
kind of one of the things actually that might be a benefit of the two of us being in, doing this, is that if something does go, something is bothering us, or we have something at work that didn't go the way we planned, you have somebody to talk to who really understands what's going on there, and so we can, throw those things off of each other and get the support from one another that, a spouse that maybe doesn't understand the business wouldn't understand what you're talking about. But, if I'm telling Michelle something about a patient or something like that, she understands what I'm saying and can be there to, help support me, or with what maybe it was a decision I made that was a wrong decision, or I didn't like, or whatever it is. But having somebody to be there to support you, I think, can actually be a really good benefit of being, in business with your spouse or partner or whoever it is. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
it can be challenging. You have a lot of employees that are depending on you, and you want to feel like you're making the right decisions, but we don't always make the right decisions, and we just try to learn from them when we don't, and move on.
I think it's
Yeah,
part of the
definitely.
servant leadership, right? Like you are exploring the grounds together, and so you're building it. And I think that is really exemplary. That again explains why you have such a loyal following and why you have so many people reflecting so positively about you personally, but also about your business because you're humble. So, so to
And then
move.
Alex,
Go
one
ahead.
other thing too, just wanted to remind folks that to throw questions in the Q&A, and we'll make sure that we get to those as well. So by all means, throw them in there and we will get those answered for you.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Drew. So to move things forward, I wanted to highlight Ken a little bit and kind of spotlight Ken for a second. So, Ken, you were a successful athlete, right? You were a star tennis player at Florida State University, and an All-American, so which is like significant accomplishment. How were you able to translate some of your success as an athlete into success as an entrepreneur and as a clinician, as a professional? So what were some of the parallels between both?
Yeah, I think, as a former athlete, for sure. I think always had the mentality of, if you put in the hard work, if you put in the dedication, um, if you have a really good team behind you. So, when I was growing up playing tennis, I had coaches. I had in college, we had athletic training staff. We had all these support people behind us. And then if we worked really, really hard, you would see the results. So I think I kind of carried that over to business, and just knew that if we put our mind to it, if we put in the hard work, if we made sure we had good support people around us and a good team, that kind of leads probably into our team mentality that we have, because that was always something that was a big part of, you know, my athletic side, that you can be successful. And so, you know, we probably took, you know, some of the chances we took. I looking back, I'm like, I can't believe we did that, or whatever it was. And but we always seem to be like, hey, we can do it. You know, if we work hard and we put our mind to it, and we got a great team around us, we can do this. We can expand our clinics, or we can, you know, add a second clinic, or whatever it is. So probably a lot of that goes back to my competitiveness from athletics, and just you know, not wanting to fail, and being competitive enough to keep pushing through it and through the hard times, and take risks, and
A lot of risks.
yeah, and that's probably so yeah, that's probably a big part of you know, why we do what we do, and how we do it, for sure.
Awesome. So would you then kind of view your clinic almost as sort of like a legacy for you, not just for the family, but for the community as well, and what y'all are looking to build there?
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, probably too many times, but it's really important to us, our why we started the business, and that we don't want to lose that. And after 10 years, I'm pretty proud that we have, you know, kept that. I like the fact that, you know, when we first opened the first few weeks, we've got some patients that still come back all these years later. We call them like our top 10. They're the OGs. They'll come back in and be like, hey. And, you know, I remember one patient particularly walked in at the end of the day, and she said, are you taking new patients? And I was thinking, yeah, we've been open 3 weeks. Of course we're taking new patients. But I didn't say that. But yeah, come on in. You want to be seen now? And then she said, I just saw your sign. You must be new. Anyway, she was a work comp case. And when I said yes, and we would be able to see her whenever, she started crying. And she said, you just don't know how I've had bad experiences. Sometimes, you know, I can't get past the front desk. They're at places I've called, and they're not friendly, and I can't, you know, this. Anyways, so while we knew that we're nice people and we want to do a good job, we also realized at that time, I realized there's a real need for this kind of a clinic, for this clinic that's got a very family welcoming vibe. I don't want it to be a spa, but we don't have the walls stark white and wear lab coats either. So this feel that we wanted to create, and I hope that that continues on in our community. Our community is really important to us. I would recommend anybody join their local chamber of commerce. It's a wonderful resource. And it gets you known out in the community, and then, you know, patients, you know, call, they know a little bit more about you, and you can give back to your community by learning all the other small businesses and the people who live in your community. I think that's a huge part. And yes, I hope that when we're gone one day, that it still has the same reputation and feel that we created, that I hope lasts forever, as long as it's a clinic.
Yeah, our kids are not interested in medical side. So,
No.
But we, like Michelle was saying, we love our community. We that's one of the things that keeps us going. There's so many great people that we've met in the community, and having a place that they can continue to come after we're gone would be awesome. You know, so you know, we're still, that's down the road, but yes, it is. I think it is something we think about and talk about from time to time.
I think as recognized, right, by all the awards that your clinic has won, and by recognition by the Chamber of Commerce, you guys are prolific in the fact that you are part of your community, and your community hopefully knows that value you provide to them every day by just being there, but also by providing exemplary service. So great work, guys. So
Yeah,
Thank you.
let's go into the advice for others section of this webinar, and this one is a tricky one, right? So like, there's the draw of this is to actually see this terrific couple managing this really Herculean feat of starting a business, driving a business, operating a business. if there are other couples in a PT community that are thinking of doing what you guys did 10 years ago, like what advice would you give them? What would you tell them? Like if they're just in the first stage of planning a family practice. So what would be your advice?
Yeah, I think some of the things I would tell them, number one, understand how it's going to be a lot of work. I mean, it just is. If you're not fully committed to this, you know, then you may want to think about something else. But if you're committed, and then know what your vision is of what you want. So if you want to be, you know, a single practitioner clinic, that's great. Then, but if you want to be own 5 clinics or 10 clinics, or kind of know what you're shooting for, and that will help you sort of plan kind of your path along the way and make sure that both of you are on the same page with that. So
That you share the same vision, because you don't want to get 5-10 years down the line with a partner and realize one wants to retire one day and one never wants to retire one day. Although I'm sure you could work through that.
Or one wants to continue growing and do all this stuff, and the other one's just, you know, content with what they have there, or whatever it is. Make sure you're on the same page as far as a couple goes. That would be one of the biggest things I would say, is talk about those things and talk about what this is going to look like and how we're going to do it, how much time it's going to take. Money, how much money we're going to have to invest in it, all that kind of stuff, so that there aren't any like surprises down the road.
And like we said, it was kind of clear for us, unspoken, what roles we just naturally fell into because of our personalities. But if you have similar personalities, or you're not a couple, you're 2 friends who just want to start a business together, or partners or whatever, you know, maybe define the roles that you're going to take. Because if you get 2 people and both of them want to work the analytics and the reports, and nobody wants to go out and promote and market the business, or you know, how many people are you willing to hire? Are you willing to hire an HR director? Does nobody want to do marketing and you need to hire a marketing person? Don't be afraid to discuss those things and figure out who's going to do what, because as we got more and more into it, we realized there's a lot more to it and a lot more roles.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to, you know, spend money on things too that can really help you out. You know, whether it's like, you know, getting a good accountant, getting these different things. Your EMR is a great example.
We love Spry's EMR.
Yes, and we've been through some others. So we've been around a long time. So
we've been around the block with EMRs.
So I won't name any, but you know, it can really make or break you, and can really make a difference in your efficiency, how you get paid, you know, how things work. So really do your research on that end as far as that goes, and that can help you a lot. And that's with all your different, you know, ancillary people that are helping your business out. Make sure you're in with the good people. It kind of goes back to having a really good team behind you.
And don't be afraid to take risks. You know, there's risks that are really good and that are good to take. We've taken quite a few of them, and it's scary, and it's okay to be scary, and it's okay to start your business and open your business and wonder a week in, a month in, that you've made a mistake. Like, are we crazy? You know, what have we done? I mean, those are all emotions. I've talked to a lot of small business owners in the chamber as well. Everybody goes through emotions, but you just stay the course and you do the right thing, and you'll be fine.
And I would say, you know, if you have a big decision coming up, do your research, you know, get all your ducks in a row. And then once you think, okay, this is what I need to do, go do it. But you know, I would say take calculated risks, but don't be afraid to take those risks. If you've run the numbers and you've looked at the demographics or whatever it is, and you feel like this is the right decision, then go do it. You can get stuck by not making decisions, which is also a decision. So
you can hold yourself back,
and that can really hold you back if you're not willing to go ahead and take those chances and move forward. As long as you've done your research and you feel like it's the right thing to do.
And then, you know, this question from one of the chats here too, but I think it kind of flows into this, is when it comes to like the taking of chances and things like this, for some people, this might be a big chance that they're taking, which is
yes,
vacation and when to take time off, right? And everybody is always talking about employee and, you know, physical therapist burnout, but there's also the owner burnout as well. And so, you know, one of the folks in the chat mentioned that them and their business owner try to alternate when they go on vacation, just because, well, they want one of them there. For you all, I'm guessing most of the time y'all are gonna take the vacation together. So how does
If
that work when that happens? Yeah, if he's like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. It's a hard thing to when you're first starting out, especially when you're just getting your clinic going and you feel like, you start adding up the numbers. Okay, if I'm out for a week, that's X amount of patients that can't be seen, and that's you start putting it into dollars and all that. But really, you just have to budget for it. You have to take the time off. You will get burned out. It is a difficult thing. Matter of fact, when we first opened, the second week that I had
it was the first or second week.
yeah, I had a family member that was not feeling, doing well, was in the hospital, and I had to take off, and that was the second week we were open. But
And I was learning how to work a fax machine.
yeah, yeah. but you have to do it. It gets easier the longer you've been in business, because you start to, as you grow a little bit, you have more people to cover and things like that. But you still have to take that time, and it may be, taking a long weekend instead of taking a week off, but find the time to manage and get some vacation time in and time away.
And that's what you used to do with our in our other
Mhm.
business, is the two owners, he and the other owner, kind of
Mm-hmm.
alternated family vacations and things like that. I'm not sure if y'all did it any other way.
No, that's pretty much what we did. And with us, because she's not a clinician, it is a little easier that we can both take time off together. If both of you are treating, it becomes a little more difficult. We've never had to really deal with that, other than my last business with my business partner. But we did do the alternating thing. So,
But now also you don't treat patients. You're
Yeah.
not really treating patients. So we, at this point in our lives, we don't really have that aspect of that. We've got enough staff that they are all the treating, but I understand the person that's
Yeah.
asking the question is treating patients. So, but I think you have to take some breaks for your mental health, for everything else. I don't think it's very healthy I mean, you will never work harder for anybody else than you work for yourself. I think every small business owner would agree with that. But if you don't take the breaks, you're not going to be the best that you can be for your patients.
No,
Yeah,
that makes sense. Go ahead,
that's
Alex.
right on. So we have a question actually from the audience, and I'm going to combine both of them. But a
Okay.
question about a specific performance matrix for the patient. So how many patients are seen by your therapist, as well as whether you choose to employ full-time employees or do you go into more part-time employees? Is there a strategy behind it, and how have you kind of fluctuated over the years?
Yeah, so our schedule's set up. We do 40-minute appointments. We do all one-on-one treatment. So it depends. Our therapist, basically, we can schedule around close to 60 patients a week for each full-time therapist. It depends on what their schedules are. Some of them do 10 hours a day. Some of them do 8-hour days. Some of them have a little bit of a mixed schedule. Right now we have 14 therapists. 11 are full-time. That's between our two clinics, and 3 are part-time. And the kind of things some of the things we look at, as far as numbers go, we really shoot for our patients, our therapists, to be over 80% productive during a week. So that's one of the things that we kind of measure. And so if basically we'd like them to see 48 patients if they're full-time or more. And we have incentive plans, to structured for those kind of things that can help, when they're busy, they feel like they're getting, compensated for that. And then, and we can afford it more when they're busy to help them out. But we used to have, we've done everything. We've had PTAs, we've had techs that worked with us at the beginning, and we've just sort of kind of tried to figure out what works best for us in our area, and kind of changing with the times of whatever that may be. So that's another piece of advice I would give people is don't get locked into this is how you have to do it, and this is the right way, and there's no other right way. What worked 10 years ago for our clinic probably wouldn't work today, and so we've adapted and changed and tried different things out. Sometimes we've tried different schedules out and then go back to something else. So yeah, that's we like to have full-time people if possible, but our part-timers are great. The first therapist I ever hired.
First two.
Well, the first one was part-time, and she's still with us today as a part-time therapist. And our second therapist we hired 10 years ago also is still with us, or 9 years
She's working
ago.
the same hours that she worked
Yeah.
9 years ago.
Yeah.
9.5 years ago.
So we, sometimes you have to fill gaps or different things work. So I just kind of look at what our needs are at the time when I'm hiring somebody and decide if we need a full-time or part-time. And sometimes I'm looking for a full-time and I get a great part-time person that comes in and interviews, and I'm like, I'm not passing this person up. We'll find a place for them. And so vice versa. I may be looking for a part-timer and a great full-timer walks in the door, and I'm like, you know what, we're going to make it work. We'll find a place for you. So yeah, that's kind of how I look at those things.
I think that's wonderful. So there's a question that's come from the audience that's actually pretty brilliant. And this one is for Michelle. So how do you convert this feeling of close-knit family type setup into a sharp, meaningful marketing message? Does this message even matter to the younger audience? I think resonates pretty well with the larger. So Michelle?
Yeah. So how do we convey the family feel in a marketing strategy? So I think that when I go out and I am marketing, I will tell people that that Ken and I are the owners, and I think that resonates because we clearly don't have a corporate feel. I mean, I'm not going to be going out, I guess what I'm saying is they like the fact that we're small and that these things are important to us, and that I can meet with them face to face and tell them. And Ken didn't mention this, but we do stay a little bit overstaffed by design so that we get people in really quickly. So the things that are important to a referral source are, do you have therapists that can treat my patients for all the types of injuries that they have and what's going on? So, I'm able to talk about, here are all the things that are important to us. Here are all the things that we can treat. And the fact that we get people in really quickly, the people love that. They love the fact that I tell them we are a little overstaffed by design. We call referrals within 24 hours of getting them, and we try to get the patient in within 48 hours of getting them. And on a side note, we have a very effective running wait list that we use so that when there's last minute cancellations, we can fill those gaps. And everybody's pretty amazed when I tell them that, we can get the patients in really fast, because there are people that will call us and say, my doctor sent me here, but they can't get me in until, for 3 or 4 more weeks. So they love the fact that we're local owners, that we're owned by a physical therapist who understands everything, and that we run our business for the patient-centered, patient-focused, and that they really, I will also tell them, not to brag, but to tell them, if you want to look at our Google reviews, we have a lot of really good Google reviews. We have a lot of patients that will return because of how they're treated. And so I kind of just really try to promote the small family feel, and that it's important to us to treat people well, to get the patients in really quickly, and that we try to get the patients in and better and discharged. We don't try to, keep people forever. And I think that they really appreciate that. We're also a very good location where we are, so people like our location. But is there anything else you can think about?
No, I think Michelle's really good at conveying that message to the referral sources or whoever we're marketing to, the patients, and I think too, like, patients, when they walk in the door, they can kind of get that feel. So it's easy once you get them in the clinic, it's easy, they can see that. But Michelle's she's got a knack for that kind of thing. I'm not good at that. Kind of goes along to separating roles. I'm not good at marketing and doing that kind of stuff. She's very good at it. I think they can just sense if you're being genuine when you go in, and just be genuine about what you're telling the people. That people can sense when you're telling the truth, and they get a feel for your personality. And I think you know, and a family feel doesn't necessarily mean like you can have a highly trained, super, you know, up on the latest technology and treatment styles and everything, and still have a family feel to it. Those two things are separate. So conveying what your therapists do really well, all that, and then also you know, the type of feeling we have at our clinic is kind of the two important things. She's just really good at doing that.
Wow. I enjoy it. I enjoy it because I'm very proud of what we've done. He's a great leader and he's a great physical therapist. And I think we just both share that vision and we want people to know like we're a welcoming place to go. We'll treat you right. We'll always do the right thing. And I just think that hopefully that conveys to when I'm out doing my marketing. Plus I bring them cookies.
The cookies always work. So to close things off, I think there's a question that is perfect as a last question of this webinar. That what are the thoughts on the state of, and potential future of our industry, and how can we uplift the profession overall, like as a clinical community?
Yeah, I mean, it's so I've been doing this now for 20 something years, owning clinics, I guess 22, 23 years. And it's a tough time right now for PTs in private practice. You know, the reimbursement has not been keeping up with the cost of business, and so you have to be. I think the biggest thing, you have to be, number one, you have to be really on top of everything. You have to know your numbers. You have to know what your analytics are across the board, and you have to stay on top of those. If something starts slipping, you need to address it quickly. On the larger scale, you just have to be creative. I think you know, a lot of getting into some if you're an insurance-based clinic, getting into some cash pay stuff, making, you know, offering a variety of things is important. Not putting all your eggs in one basket is important. So I kind of think of it like a stock portfolio. You want to be diversified when you have a clinic. You don't want all your patients to come from one referral source. So if that referral source leaves, then you're out of luck. So you want to try to diversify everything, the things that you offer. I think if you can offer some really good things to your community, that'll help. But just learning to adapt and be creative is probably the biggest thing that will help keep you going. Looking at the future and trying to anticipate what is coming, and then being a little bit ahead of the curve on those things can really help you out as a clinic owner, nowadays, especially with margins being really tight on everything. So
Well, I think reaching out and doing this type of thing, like reaching out to your fellow business owners, your fellow therapists, see what other people do. There's a lot of resources out there. I know a few years ago we started watching a lot of like videos and webinars and people who had different, be open to other people's ideas and opinions, because sometimes we get in this little narrow, mindset of, and then you have to have somebody else come and help you bring out of it, and don't be afraid to try something new. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But
and networking is really important. And I don't like to think of other clinics, even in our area, as competitors. Like, we're all in the same boat, and we all are trying to do the same thing. And we can learn from each other. We can help each other out. There may be something that another clinic offers that we don't, and we can, send it to them. I have several former employees who've opened clinics, near us or around us, and I don't look at that as a negative thing. We still talk and we still throw ideas off of each other, and so I think all the support you can get is great. So if you have that support, take advantage of it for sure.
And sorry, Alex, we did have just two more that came in. There'll be really quick questions for y'all.
We'll try.
Just the percentage of your practice that's cash and not a network. And then the other one is that for your location size, how big is the physical? And then what are the kind of the hours that y'all operate under?
Okay, yeah, good questions. We are heavily insurance based clinic. We've just really probably in the last couple of years started branching out into some different cash pay ideas. So we do offer dry needling, and we've actually started a like a Pilates program and some wellness classes that we've just started within the last year or so. So we are, starting to branch out into more cash pay services. We're still kind of developing those services. So that's an area that I think we are starting to really push a little bit more in our area, because the
Being
insurance,
forced to get out of this.
the insurance
get out of the box.
reimbursement just isn't keeping up with where we want it to be. We do negotiate, so I would recommend everybody try to, if you are taking insurance, try renegotiate your contracts on a regular basis. You may be surprised that you can get some higher pay from some of these insurance companies. Some of them will, some of them won't, but any bit you can get is good. So definitely look at that. As far as like the size of our clinic, what we call our original location, we started out at 2,500 square feet, and we just expanded to another 2,500. So we basically knocked down a wall and added another 2,500 square feet. So we're at 5,000 square feet for that location, and we have 11 therapists at that location, 3 of which are part-time. So 8 full-time and probably the equivalent of like 1.5. So I would say maybe 9.5. 10.5.
We've already
FTs.
established I don't do math.
Yeah, my math ain't working. Our other location is a little bit smaller, so it's right around 1,000 square feet, and we are actually expanding that one right now as we speak to add about another 800 square feet. So we will be 1,800 square feet at that location. We have 3 therapists over there right now, and we'll be looking to move a 4th over there once that expansion is done.
And our hours at our main location are 7 to 6. And they go to lunch from 1 to 2. And then the other location starts, I think they start a little earlier. Their hours are like 7 to 5 or something, but roughly around that. We try to get the people before work and the people a little bit after work. But we do close at 6 at the latest on both those. And we're not open weekends. We would never, I gave up ever trying to think of anybody wanting to work weekends in Colorado. There's too many fun things to do. Weekends, no one wants to work.
Yeah. And and I like to look at square footage by the number of visits that you're seeing. So I try to, when we get to a certain amount of square footage, if we have a certain amount of square footage, I try to keep the visit number within a certain range. So, maybe like 2,500 square feet. When we get up to about 250 patients a week, I know we're kind of closing in on our capacity at that clinic. And that's kind of what prompted us to expand. So kind of looking at those things and kind of figuring out your numbers for that can help you know how much square footage you need or if you need more.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ken, and thank you, Michelle. It was a wonderful conversation. I think what a wonderful asset for the state of Colorado to have you guys. But it's so wonderful to meet you personally. And as a clinician, I think it's so great to see that we have professionals like yourselves representing our trade. So good luck to you, and thank you for your time. This was great.
Aww.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it. Hope something helped somebody.
Awesome.
Thanks.
I think people are better off from having to know you for this hour.
Aw, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
All right, bye-bye.